Thank you, Mara. Appreciate it.
We got that picture I sent too.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. We're going to kick off the Finance Committee meeting. I'd ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll take a quick roll call. Councilmember Gully,
Here.
Councilmember Parator, absent. Councilmember Cummings,
Here.
Councilmember December,
Present.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Present.
Council President Mantello here. We have 5 present, 1 vacant, 1 absent. How's that? All right. We will get right into the public forum part of the agenda. Anyone that would like to speak on anything on this evening's agenda, please feel free to come up to the podium, state your name and address. You'll have 5 minutes. Okay, the public forum section's closed. I want to thank Laura Ravenel for volunteering for this huge effort. A few months ago, the City Council appointed a special committee on the creation of a dog park here in the city of Troy. As we know, there are many dog owners in our city who are looking forward to hearing what the committee has come up with. So I would ask Laura to come up and talk about the report and also introduce any members who are with you. And I figure you could kind of give us an overview and then we'll ask some questions and take it from there. And once again, Laura, I want to thank you for all your hard work and the committee's hard work.
Thank you. So James Rath from the City Planning Department. I want to thank James and also all of the other members of the committee, the city council folks who sat on the committee, for everyone who left here. It was a great team effort, and we worked through this process in a consensus-based way that I think was really remarkable and laudatory. I will say that we've met for the past 5 months, about once a month, and we've really looked at this process with the goal of identifying an initial site for a dog park and recommendations around that particular site from which to build a model so that the city can look at that and take what it learns from it and bring it across the city to different locations so that the dog parks are accessible to more of Troy residents. That said, we focused in on locations within Prospect Park because out of the already the sites that within the city's code are already allowed to have a dog park, that seemed to be most central for most folks. And then within that, we looked at 3 different sites within the park and coalesced around a site in the northwest corner of the park. There were a lot of considerations that went into making that decision. We looked at the kind of maintenance and costs that would be involved, trying to mitigate that. With the city, they already have a lot of work to do. We want to make sure that this isn't adding to the burden or the cost to the city and city taxpayers. We also took into account the ease of access. We want to make sure that this park can build towards being ADA accessible so that everyone in Troy with a dog can access it. And we wanted to take into account other kinds of safety considerations in terms of where the park can be. James, is there anything else? Great. That said, we worked together to kind of put together a list of best practices to give you the city an initial list of rules that you want to consider so that there's clear signage about how the park can and should be used by residents. That's something that can be built on. It's not a hard and fast list. We hope that the recommendations are useful as the city moves forward with this project in the next year.
And, Laura, I think a couple things. In terms of financial, I think we talked about some type of partnership with a potential private organization. Maybe if you could go into that, maybe if you don't mind handing out or giving Mara a copy for us and we could take a quick look at it. I know you sent it to us electronically and I was able to scan over it quickly, but maybe the financial part of it, the time frame, and how you feel and how Steve and James feel from planning. Is this, feasible? Is it doable? And how do you see it moving forward, minus what we have to do in terms of adopting your recommendations?
Yeah, just from the planning perspective, obviously with the city's resources in mind, this plan was put forward, like Laura said, to be the most realistic, short-term plan for getting a dog park in the near future. We can certainly look at ways to expand the idea in the future in different locations and put all the bells and whistles on it, but this is very doable, very realistic. So that was our goal, is to get it the lowest cost, most effective dog park.
Excellent.
I know you mentioned the idea of a public-private partnership, and that's something that the committee as a whole really supported, and we hope that we'll see that in the near future. There isn't currently a nonprofit entity with which the city could work to do that. There is one in the process of being developed, so we're hoping that moving forward, that group can help kind of give feedback to the city in terms of how the management of the park is being done, and also help with some capital fundraising over the course of the park's implementation.
Yeah, because I think all of us, we want to make sure that it succeeds.
Mhm.
And so however we have to do it, if we have to do it in a phased-in approach, as might be recommended, or as kind of, let's hit the low-hanging fruit and then the bells and whistles and things like that. But we want to make it safe, we want to make it enjoyable, and we want to obviously make it a model for other parts of our city. So, okay. Did other members have questions? And I thought the process, we'll ask questions tonight, on the bigger picture and all of that, but then I thought maybe in May, we could actually adopt, if we're supportive of that, the dog park, the location, and get things moving forward in that direction. And we could actually adopt what you're providing us tonight in May. And then we'll have time to look at it and have it go through committee. And, hopefully you'll be available for the committee and obviously the May meeting to work with us to try to get this implemented.
If it's not on the same day as my defense, then.
You got it. Well, we'll make sure, we'll work around it. We'll work around it, so, okay. Did anyone else, I know, Councilmember Kennedy, you kind of came forward with Councilmember December and others with ideas. Did you have any thoughts or input?
I was very happy with the way the whole process worked out and the results. Just to your point about whether or not we were able to find a private-public partnership, that was part of the recommendations. And I think what prevented an organization from building the proper structure was the lack of a report and a recommendation with an identified site that this will establish. So I think once a site is finalized or at least agreed upon with real hard numbers associated with it, it would be a lot easier to coalesce, especially the business community, who I think there's already a donor base kind of willing and ready and waiting for something like a more concrete plan to be announced for people to rally behind. But there's definitely support from the community, and I think this will be a great addition to somewhat underutilized park. But yeah, we can discuss further in the regular meeting.
Yep. And I know there's also, which I think is really cool, Councilmember Kennedy, the PBA has talked about some type of dog memorial for the K-9 unit.
Yeah.
And I think that that is something, down the road that would be very, very cool. A cool addition to this. So we thank you so much. And if the council's okay, there's no formal acceptance tonight or anything. It was just an introduction to the report and all that, and then we'll get it through committee, get it rolling. But I want you to know it's not going to get caught up in bureaucratic red tape. We want to see this through, and we're going to see it through. And I think James in planning will help us carry it through the planning department and work with us to implement a true dog park here in our city. So thank you so much. And Laura, could you just state the names of the folks through the dog park? Just, I know they're not here, but we'd like to thank them.
Oh my goodness, I don't know if I.
Oh, I'm sorry, they're not on the report?
No.
Okay, don't worry about it, but
No.
please extend
I
our
will,
thanks
I
to
wouldn't want
them.
to forget
Okay.
anybody, but they all were very integral, and I really want to thank the city's planning department. They were very helpful.
Yeah, James, we're Steve Strikeman. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yay! Okay. All right, now we'll go into hopefully not another dog park, the fourth quarter financial report. That is not in the doghouse, correct, Andy? That's all positive. Very good. Andy, thank you. Council members do have the updated document presentation in front of them. Take it away.
So the summary of this presentation is going to focus on the three governmental funds in the city.
Andy, we'll do what we always do, general fund, then questions.
General fund revenues, then questions, general fund expenditures, then questions, and water and sewer is going to be real quick.
Okay,
The focus of this is on the general fund.
all right.
I can't emphasize this enough. These are the tentative results. We are, see the next page, 80% I would say done, includes no interim. That's just reconciled. I'm going to go through specific revenue and expenditures. And when I say specific, the report I sent on Friday was by group. I am going to go into individual line items to hopefully show the big groups that I felt were what created this with Truman. This is obviously, I'm going to go over the balance sheet, the general fund as of December 31st, and then, like I said, a broad overview of water and sewer. For those who don't know, the summary of the AUD process, it's due April 30th, 2019 from 2018. Based on where we currently stand, I would anticipate filing on the 29th or the 30th. It encompasses 9 city funds. It's the 3 governmental funds, and there are 6 other funds that we need to report on. We performed an internal audit. So you have the independent audit, obviously. The Comptroller's office reviews every single balance sheet line item. Like I said, 80% of the work is done. And please note, Bonadeo has already been in for a week with 2 to 3 people. I talked with them today. We're trying to get them back. Hopefully, I'd like to have them back sometime in April. We are on track since I've been here, and this is the 6th audit I've been a part of. This will be the earliest the audit report has ever been issued.
Thank you,
The
Hank.
goal of this is by June 30th to have this thing done and filed. And we are on track, if not earlier than that date. The summary of the 2018 general fund results. Total revenues were $74.6 million. Total expenditures were $72.767 million. As of March 30th, 2019, there was a surplus in the general fund of $1,840,972. Revenues are considered to be actual cash receipts received during the 2018 fiscal year, plus any accounts receivable or due from other governments as of December 31st. Expenditures are actual vouchers. They do not include any outstanding purchase orders. The 2018 expenditures are 2018 cash payments plus 2018 accounts payable, less 2017 accounts payable. And I emphasize this because there are areas of budgetary savings that I will go through that are significant dollar values that are outstanding purchase orders. This is how the AUD is to be reported. This is how the audit's to be reported. Personally, I don't necessarily agree with it, but those are the rules and follow the rules. I think it makes more sense to show you what's standing on purchase orders, but
Yeah.
Summary of 2018 general fund revenues. They exceeded the final adjusted budget by $40,000. It's the first time I have ever seen budgetary revenues exceed the actual revenues exceed the budgetary items. A big emphasis that you're going to see as I go through the revenues and what created this result is the impact that the state comptroller's office's budgetary review has on the actual results. I'm going to focus on property taxes, pilots, sales tax, vacant building fees, building permits, and then 4 other areas of revenues. 2018 property tax revenues. The total actual revenue recognition in the general fund is just under $24.5 million. Exceeded its budgetary amount by $631,000. The entire cause of this is collections and the impact of the tax overlay. We talked about during the budget process for 2019. The tax overlay accounts for unpaid taxes, unpaid school taxes, and the collection of prior year taxes on the fiscal year. The 2 primary causes within the tax overlay, why they exceeded the budgetary amount. The actual 2018 tax collections were higher than anticipated. Unpaid taxes for 2018, the actual percentage was 3.8%. When doing the tax overlay, we assume an unpaid percentage of 7.5%. This is consistent with past practices. There was also payments of prior year taxes were $900,000 higher than anticipated. The direct reason for that is when I do the tax overlay and I look at collection of prior year taxes, I do not look at people who pay their property taxes, who are on the foreclosure list and redeem their property before the date. That number changes year to year. So what I try to do is get a percentage of collections outside of that group because I don't want to use a number that varies year to year. And I can't emphasize this enough, like I said before. The tax overlay is the first thing the state comptroller's office looks at. He reviews it in depth for 3 to 4 hours. They signed off on this. I have discussed this multiple times with them about how conservative this is. This is how they want it to be. Pilot revenues. Total pilot revenues were $916,000. Exceeded budget by $121,000. Again, this is the second area OSC looks at. They reviewed this in-depthly. They signed off on it. 2 areas, obviously, where I broke it out by type. You have city IDA, county IDA, and the city of Troy pilot agreements. The city pilot agreements were $44,000 over than what we anticipated. The primary cause of that is when you buy a property through the foreclosure process, you pay prorated taxes for the rest of the year. We budget that extremely conservatively because I don't like predicting how many foreclosed property sales are going to occur during the year. In these areas, we try to use the most accurate information possible. That was higher than what I budgeted for. The county IDA pilot, we budgeted off of prior year cash receipts. We have corrected that in 2019. We are now working. We were able to get pilot schedules from the county IDA, so we use those now to budget for. Next page. And if I'm going too quick, please stop me if you have a question about the specific page. Sales tax. The final actual total for 2018 was $16,757,000. The adjusted budget was $16 million. The original budget was $15,750,000. There is an orange box that you'll see on this chart or graph. The numbers contained within that box are what we budgeted sales tax off. When we do the budgetary revenues, we only have the first and second quarter of revenues for the year. So what you can see is the trend justified budgeting $15,750,000. I do want to note two things. One, as it says, sales tax revenues are uncontrollable and volatile due to the susceptibility of economic conditions. It could turn on a dime. This county is a completely opposite the trend of how sales tax goes in the state. The other thing is the city's contract with the county was revised and amended several years ago. It's 19.65% of the first $80 million of collections. After that, the percentage decreases. In 2018, the excess was collected, the city received the excess percent of 11.7. $8.8 million of total county collections were subject to the excess percent. That contract expires at the end of sales tax year 2020. For the council to note, in 2019, that percent drops to 11.1%. In 2020, the excess percent drops again to 9%. If sales tax revenues from collections by the county remain the same from 2018 to 2020, the city will lose $250,000 in revenue because of that contract. I just want to keep that in mind as we go through.
Now, Andy, will we pick up with the whole new internet sales the county will receive distributed to the communities? I've no clue what that's going to bring in, Rensselaer County, but I mean, could that make up a tiny bit of the difference?
If that's a piece of the county cloud, I haven't read about the new.
Yeah.
I know there's certain things tied to it. I believe AIM got tied to the internet sales tax.
Yeah.
If that is considered part of county collections, it would fall under this category. Obviously, that's a pretty big decrease, and that's not even taking into consideration the economy staying where it was throughout 2018.
So that starts, can you repeat how it drops again, 11.1?
First,
in
2018, it was
Yeah.
11.7%. 2019, it's 11.1%. In 2020, it's 9%.
11.1, you said?
11.1. The change from 11.7 to 11.1 is $50,000. The change from 11.7 to 9 is
No, this is just for in
$250,000.
excess of what?
This is just the excess.
What's the number? Is it 30?
It's 19.65% of the first 80 million. That does not change. The only thing that decreases is the excess.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so 80 million, we get 19 point.
80 million, the city gets 19.65%. The excess goes 11.7, 11.1 to 9.
Okay.
And another thing to keep in mind, the total collections for the county was $88.8 million in 2018. That's a $7 million increase from 2017. It's gone 79.4, 79.3, 80.7, 81.7 to 88.9. The trend does not justify that what happened in 2018 is going to continue by any means.
Right.
Obviously, I would love it if it did, but we budget off the trend. The trend said 15.75. That's similar to how we budgeted in 19, 16 million because of that trend.
Yeah, it's a concern.
The next page is vacant building fees. Total revenue was just under $734,000. Final adjusted budget was $450,000. We recognize vacant building fee revenues as they are paid. And that is important because when we did the budget, similar to sales tax for 2018, we budgeted off the orange box. The fees were increased in 2016. However, there was no data to justify where that bump should be in the budget. We had increased it in the 2018 budget, but did not increase it. Primarily because at that time, when we're preparing revenues in August and September, I don't know what the unpaid re-levy amount on the 2018 property tax bills are going to be. To note, 57.65% of the $733,000 was re-levy vacant building fees paid on the 2018 property tax bills. As we move into the 2020 budget, we'll have more of a trend of what's paid in the current year, what's paid on re-levy, to look at that budgetary number. The next page is building permit revenues. Total revenue ended up being $881,000. The original budget was $950,000. I proposed a budget amendment which decreased it to $650,000 based off the trend that we saw for the year. And then in November and December, the city collected over $250,000 in building permit revenue that was not anticipated at that time. If we had not amended the budget, it would have been short $70,000. That was the cause of that going over budget. Then there were 4 other revenues of note that I wanted to bring up. Ambulance billing revenues exceeded the budgetary appropriation by $183,000. Continued to collect well the prior billing company. We continue to work with the new billing company. We have gone live with them. Interest and earnings was $130,500. The city recognizes, now this is the same for the next line, interfund transfers MAC. The Troy MAC activity is recorded on the city's accounting books. We are the interest over budget. That is entirely a non-cash revenue item because the MAC invested in a bond and received a premium for it. We recognize it as revenue. We don't know when they're going to do it, so we do not budget for it. It all depends on how their investments do. I will tell you, they received a $50,000 premium in January when they invested in a bond. The next item, interfund transfers, that is a MAC transfer between its 2 funds. They have a debt service fund, and an O&M, they call it. It's the same as a general fund. This has never been recorded on the city's budgetary appropriations for revenues. It's $181,000. It is non-cash to the city. It is used essentially for their interest that they've earned. It's used to pay for the operating expenses. The city recognizes non-cash expenditures on its books for the max operating expenses. And the final is the inter-fund transfer from the water fund for the surplus. There was no transfer of any surplus money in 2018 from the water fund to the general fund. Obviously, the general fund already had a surplus, and there was a reason for the water fund that I'll go through when we get to that piece. Are there any other questions about general fund revenues?
Yeah, Andy, my biggest one, and once again, I want to thank you for the thoroughness. It's come a long way. But I was going to ask about the 2.2, and is that because if we were to take it, the water fund would have a deficit? Because I did notice the outside communities, I think we're down about like 1.2-ish.
I'll go through the
Okay.
outside communities. You cannot transfer from the water, you cannot transfer water fund surplus to another fund that creates a deficit. That is against general municipal law. General municipal law allows you to transfer the amount of the current year surplus. So the maximum amount is the surplus that's listed in the report.
Did any council members have questions for Andy? I do want to state for the record that Councilmember Paratorres joined us. Take it away, Andy.
Sorry, I did
Oh,
have a
I'm
couple
sorry.
quick questions.
Councilmember Cummings.
On your report that you sent, the preliminary report, there were a couple of lines I just wanted to double check on. The increase of about $200,000 in public safety.
Vacant building fees.
That's vacant building fees, great. And then where are parking tickets and traffic fines?
Fines and forfeitures.
So why did that end up still being, did we amend that up? Is that what happened? Because I remember we had significantly more than expected last year, but we still
I
were.
believe it was amended.
1,000 below
I'd have to double
adjusted
check that.
budget. I think I do remember.
I believe we did.
I'll have it. We had amended parking fines. Original was 400,000. We amended it up to 805,000.
Okay, great. And then there's a $200,000 deficit in recreation. That's primarily the the ice rink, or is it also the golf course?
There was a shortfall, and obviously the ice rink has an impact to
Right.
that, but there was also a shortfall in revenues from the golf course.
And then there was a $230,000 surplus from federal aid. That was a 30% above budgeted number. So good job, but I know we conservatively estimate federal aid in general in the budget.
Just in 1 second. Hold up. We cleaned up a tremendous amount of revenue lines, which is part of the reason why you see the shortfall in state aid. We made an effort at the end, as part of the year-end process, to how we classify grant codes that were not set up properly in years past. So you're just seeing them aligned to, they have to be coded a certain way for the way you report on the AED and the audit. So a lot of that's clean up there. And that's pretty much what it is.
Great.
Any further questions? Andy will go into.
Expenditures were under budget $1.9 million, total, as I said, $72.767 million. I mentioned before, and I can't emphasize it enough, this does not include purchase orders, which had a material impact on total actual expenditures. The areas of focus: police and fire overtime, health insurance, pension, consultant services, and 4 areas of other expenditures. Police overtime totaled $951,593 for 2018. The highest when you look back at the last 6 years. The 2 main causes for that. The first is PBA settled the contract in 2017. There had not been a contract prior to that. The salary increase, you would expect the overtime to increase compared to prior years. The other important factor is there were a number of vacancies throughout the police department in 2018. The monthly average was 4. That's the highest it's been in the same time period of the graph. There's a direct correlation between those 2 items and the increase. For fire,
Andy, was that primarily, I think at the beginning of 2018, we lost, like, right off the bat, maybe 5 or 6 officers. A couple went to Waterville, 1 went to the state police, if I recall.
beginning in March, there were 5 vacancies. The exception of the months of May and June, there were at least 5 vacancies the rest of the year. For the fire department, it was the lowest it's been in this over the same time period, with a total of $1,027,000 in overtime. The cause of this is directly related to minimum manning and the number of vacancies. The average number of vacancies in the fire department 2018 monthly was 2.167. That is the lowest it's been since 2013. So there's a direct relationship between the 2. Health insurance. There's 2 pages about health insurance. The first is the actual total all-in cost for the city health insurance for 2018, $12,898,000. There were, if you compare it to the original budget, that there is Humana that impacts the savings. There's also Blue Shield, which is usage up to $150,000 per person. There's three components to health insurance. There's actual cash payments. There's accounts payable, which are when we receive a bill from Blue Shield for something that they paid to a provider before December 31st of the year. Then there's year-end runoffs, which are 2019 bills for service dates that were in 2018. We record those through the end of February of the subsequent year. We have no idea how health insurance is going to end the year until March 15th at the earliest. The $717,000 of budgetary savings, I'm not going to deny that's a lot of money, but I do want to put something in context. There are over 1,500 people on the Blue Shield plan. If you have a family plan with 4 people on it, every single person of the 4 is covered by the city up to the first $150,000. It is not the aggregate of the 4. So with 1,500 people on the plan and $717,000 in savings, that equates to 5 people with $150,000 claims, and the city does not save any money. It is extremely volatile. And if you flip to the next page, every quarterly report, first, second, and third quarter, we discussed how I was concerned about health insurance and where it was headed for the year.
Yeah.
If you look at March, now this represents actual cash payments to Blue Shield only. It does not include CDPHP. It does not include Humana. We spent $1.4 million in the month of March on health insurance. All of that was a 2018 expense. That cost never decreased below $800,000 until the month of November. You can see we consistently paid between $800,000 and $1 million every month until then. A large chunk of the savings came from the decrease in November and December. I wanted to show this to make sure people didn't think I was some of the boy who cried wolf. That there was a significant concern, and it could look like this again this year, and I'll have no idea until March 15th how it's going to end the year. The next page, pension. I just wanted to note we had done a budget amendment to transfer out the savings once we received the final bill. When we paid the pension bill, we did not defer any future pension costs. The entire pension bill was paid. The next page, total consultant services expenditures total $2.2 million for 2018. Came in under budget $353,000. 86.5% of the total budgetary monies were spent. There were various departments that there were savings in. I listed 6: corporation counsel, third-party snow plowing, planning, DPW, police, and fire all had savings within their lines that contributed to this, among other departments, but those were the big 6.
Andy, can you give us a breakdown of the court counsel's office? You've been great, Jim. You've been keeping us on top of those. You came in lower because we transfer money.
Came in lower than adjusted.
Then the adjusted, okay.
So breakdown of the 2018.
Yeah, just if you could follow up, that'd be great. Thank you.
The next page, 4 areas to note. I'm going to do the middle 2 first, and then I'll touch on equipment and uniforms. Other materials and supplies, budgetary savings of $181,000. That was savings throughout various departments, including police and DPW. And utilities, there was a savings of $158,000 on electric and gas bills. Now, equipment and uniforms. Equipment, per the AUD in the audit, there's a budgetary savings of $135,000 for equipment. There's 72% of that are outstanding purchase orders at the end of 2018 for the police and fire department. Uniforms, there's $144,000 savings per the AUD in the audit. 91% of that is outstanding purchase orders for police and fire, That is mainly the budget transfer that was done in December 2018 for the purchase of new turnout gear for the fire department. That's what created that savings right there. So that's the impact. I wanted to illustrate it twice.
Mhm.
There's almost $275,000 in budgetary savings that's tied up in purchase orders at the end of the year. And our office reviews every purchase order. Are there any other questions about any general fund expenses?
Can you speak to the reasons for the savings on the utility line?
Have not had an opportunity yet to really delve into that line. Speaking with Deputy Mayor, we believe that a portion of that, if not most of it, can be attributed to Monolith and the solar.
If you could follow up on that one, Andy, that's fine. You answered most of my questions throughout your presentation, Andy, so I appreciate that.
Anything else on expenditures? All right, the next page. I wanted to kind of go through the general fund balance sheet. Total assets were just under $40 million. Total liabilities just under $21 million. Total fund balance just under $19 million. The balance sheet is a snapshot of a certain date and time. And the operating statement is a specific time period. There's a lot of times that, and this isn't just for the city council, this is just about everyone that I talk to. When you say you have a surplus, the first question is that's a lot of cash. And surplus does not mean cash. Not to get too far into accounting weeds, but a surplus is equal to your change in assets plus or minus your change in liabilities. So what I have the whole balance sheet here. There's a couple areas I want to point out and illustrate. This is not in cash. If you flip to the next page, these are the general fund assets. What I did was I grouped it kind of by type, just so you would have an idea. As you'll see, operating cash in the general fund decreased $2 million from December 31st, 2017 to December 31st, 2018. $341,000 of that is held with what's defined as cash of fiscal agent. That is money that is with the state comptroller's office that will be sent to the MAC and the money held by the MAC. The MAC has a funding requirement to have 150% of the next 12 months worth of payments at all times. 100% is held with the MAC, 50% is held with the New York State Comptroller's Office to be transferred to the MAC when the payment is actually made. The next line of note is cash reserves. You'll see it was zero, it's now $1.25 million. The city has 5 reserves outside of the debt reserve. The city has been working with the State Comptroller's Office, and they have been incredibly patient with us. It is required that these reserves be funded with cash. These reserves have never been funded with cash. What we were able to do is fund 4 of them. The insurance reserve, the workers' comp reserve, the unemployment reserve, the snow and ice reserve. That is what that money is for. As you'll see, there's other additions and subtractions to assets throughout. When you compare the 2 dates, the total asset increase of just under $930,000 represents 50.51% of the total general fund surplus. If you go to the next page, you'll see the total liabilities decreased $911,000. That's the difference, 49.49% of the total general fund surplus. When you're looking at this, I would ask that you consider accounts payable and accrued liabilities to be the same. You'll see accounts payable increased $6.6 million, accrued liabilities decreased $5.4 million. That is an accounting timing with the posting of the retirement invoice. In 2017, it was in accrued liabilities, and in 2018, it's in accounts payable. The other item to note is due to other funds. You'll see that decreased over $1 million. We are making a concerted effort. We have been, when Bonadio has been in, there's been discussions verbally in years past, along with OSC, about the balance of due to, due froms amongst all 9 city funds. It's just a concerted effort to make sure that those are paid down and reconciled as low as possible for year end. The balance sheet section for the general fund of fund balance, the increase agrees to the 2018 general fund surplus. What you will see is there is no change in the workers' comp, unemployment, snow and ice, insurance, or capital reserve. Pursuant to the fund balance legislation that was amended by this council in September of 2018, I believe it was in September of 2018, there is a formula that is used to allocate to the reserves. There is a cap on the total unassigned fund balance in the city. The surplus fell below the mandatory caps of the entire, that way, therefore, the entire surplus is that none of it touches the reserves. Just for some clarification, non-spendable form is a fancy way from the State Comptroller's Office to say prepaid expenses. Assigned unappropriated fund balance is a fancy way of saying outstanding purchase orders. The reserve for debt, $10.9 million, is the total cash held for Troy Mac payments at December 31st, 2018. That has hit its high point. It will now decrease every year until the MAC's gone because of the 150% rule. And the last is unassigned fund balance. The city had $1.8 million surplus, $726,000 of it went to the unassigned fund balance. Over 50% went to the Troy Mac. The next page is just some observations for the council to read on how I interpret the 2018 surplus and general fund as a whole. I do want to just discuss the second bullet. So the surplus does result in the city's unassigned fund balance increasing and presenting a healthier and more, as I put in quotes, realistic balance sheet in the general fund. This by no means that the city's general fund balance sheet was misstated. Every amount was reconciled and internally audited by our office and independently audited. What I mean by realistic is by amending that fund balance legislation in September of 2018 and increasing the threshold of what needs to go into the reserves from 2% to 4%. The unassigned fund balance can be cash, it can be accounts receivable, it can be any type of asset. When you are putting excess into reserves, it's supposed to be cash. And this is how the city got in the position with the reserves that it's in, and we continue to work with the State Comptroller's Office. And I thank them for how patient they've been with us to work through this. But by increasing your unassigned fund balance, it's more realistic in the sense that you're portraying your total net assets outside of your reserves, which has been the city's asset position the entire time. And if I look at this from a financial only perspective, and if I didn't work for the city and didn't understand it the way I do, I would wonder why the unassigned fund balance was so low compared to the actual balances on the balance sheet. That's what I mean by you were starting to see the benefit of amending that legislation. It happened in 2017 and continues to occur. With that, that's everything I have on the general fund.
I'm good on the general fund if everyone else is. Okay, we can go into the water. Go ahead, Ian.
Water fund surplus 1.9 million. 3 big items to note for the water fund. The last one, obviously, we already discussed it. The current year surplus, no transfer to the general fund. So obviously, there was already a surplus in the general fund didn't feel as if it was needed. I think more importantly, there needs to be an effort and awareness that the water fund has debt payments coming for the water main replacement in Lansingburg into the future. It has a $3.5 million bond issuance that was passed, I believe, 2 years ago for the water tank restoration. And there is the Tomahannock line replacement project coming down. There needs to be a fund balance there for one-time expenditures and asset purchases that the water fund can afford to buy without going to bond. The water fund balance ends up being liquid. The general fund, it's either paid for in the current year or it's re-levied, and the general fund makes the water fund and the sewer fund whole. So somehow, in some fashion, the water fund gets cash. It's just trying to look outside of 2018 and look at where the water fund will be in 5 years or 10 years, and making sure Chris has the assets, and by assets I mean cash, to fund what he needs that he does not need to bring bond resolutions forward outside of these big projects.
Well, we had talked about that in the past, and prior to myself and the mayor coming on board, the water fund was used, let's just say, way too much. Saying that, do you, moving forward, obviously, you're recommending the 2.2 is not going to be transferred this year. I
Right.
mean, that's huge. Regarding the outside communities, is there a way that,
So
The sales, okay.
so the shortfall in city water sales, that's a wet summer. It's hard, yeah. The shortfall in revenues from outside communities, Brunswick and North Greenbush. A piece of that is the wet summer. The other piece of it is both of those communities had meter issues. Chris is working with those communities to get the meters fixed. But the bills had to be estimated because of the way the reads came in. We're working, Chris talked to them again today about getting the meters fixed prior to the readings. He's working with them consistently. The other piece of it is,
can we, on the meter, talk about that quick?
Yeah.
As you know, I have a different job and work with communities, and it's interesting that the meter issues come up because a couple communities up north are having a very difficult time finding monies to pay for new meters because their meters are shot. And it's costing this one community, it's a small village, $1 million. But I believe that there's grant funding available. However, if this is impacting, obviously, our water fund, there's got to be a way that, I mean, they're going to have to bond or something. It's got to get fixed. I mean, this is substantial.
Chris is working with it on them, and I think the conversation's better had with Chris about his plan to get
Okay,
them.
Okay.
I don't want to speak on behalf of Chris,
Sure.
but we're not turning, certainly, the water billing department, Chris, have not turned a blind eye to it.
I'm
We're
sure.
getting
I'm
with
not
them to
blaming
get it
our
fixed. No, I know,
folks,
I
yeah.
just want
I
to
mean,
make sure.
this is like some serious dollars, so, maybe Councilmember Kennedy, we can have a public utilities / finance and bring Chris in, because this is some moonshot bucks.
Sure.
And North Greenbush, their issue,
Meter,
Andy, same
well,
thing.
same thing.
I mean, they're pretty flush, so we gotta get them,
Town of East Greenwich just upgraded their meters and they passed the cost on to
to the taxpayers. Okay.
directly.
Last page. There's okay news and there's very good news.
Let's hear
The
the
okay news, obviously, city sewer rents follow city water rents. So there's a shortfall in revenues for city sewer rents, and that's attributable as well to the wet summer. The good news, however, the city sewer fund fully funded the transfer to the CSO project and had $37,000 remaining to put into their fund balance.
That's awesome.
Good.
That's good. So at least that's paying off. and this is, we can all talk about, but as soon as I saw the 2.2 and the outside communities, I mean, that was what I wanted to talk to you about, Andy. So that's a huge concern. And, it's something that really has to get rectified like sooner rather than later. I'm sure that the mayor will agree. Did anyone else want to comment? I want to thank you on your thoroughness, and your reports are just getting better and better.
Absolutely.
You're really getting the hang of it, Mr. Petrowski. So, Councilmember Cummings,
Do you have
yes.
balance sheets for the sewer and water fund?
They're not done yet.
But you'll send those to us when they are?
What's that?
Absolutely,
But you'll
yeah,
send those to us when they are?
With the AUD, it'll be there.
yes.
No, the focus needs to go back to the AUD.
And the timetable, I did hear you at the beginning, you plan to file the AUD 29th-ish?
Probably the 30th,
Okay,
probably. Got behind a little bit from where I wanted to be. Realistically, getting it all entered, and there's a tremendous amount of support work that has to go into it with schedules and whatnot, so it's looking like the 30th.
Mayor, did you want to add anything to the water fund issue or anything, or?
No, I think Andy covered pretty much everything you want to know. The water fund is largely attributable to wet summers. If you go back historically, they track summers. That's what happens when you have water, rain, it's well water they're on. Grapefruit drought.
Okay. Andy, thank you very, very much. Thank you. All right, we are going to take a 5-minute break. We have a 6:45 public hearing on CDBG. I would ask,
Legislation.
Sorry, yeah, we have legislation.
oh, hello. Finance week, legislation. What legislation? We do have legislation to go through. I'm just so ready to move forward, Andy. Local laws, we have none. Thank you, Andy, again. Ordinance 26, ordinance authorizing and ratifying the employment memorandum of agreement by and between the City of Troy, New York and the City of Troy Command Officers Association, Coates, and UPSU. Council President Vantello, at the request of the administration, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Parator, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second, Councilmember Kennedy. Andy, do you mind giving us a quick overview on the Coates agreement and UPSU? Thank you. You should have just stayed seated. You probably needed to stretch.
I do. So this is a 2-year contract, 2018, 2019. Financially, 0% increase for 2018, no retro. 2019, a salary increase of $3,812. And an increase, they receive a stipend, being the captain position, that's an increase of $3,000. So total $6,800. 12 members, or 8 members of the bargaining units, it's about $50,000 a year annually. There's some operational items that are included within it. But financially, that was obviously a big piece.
UPSU, anything on that?
So Coates is,
It-
it's
it-
weird, Coates
I
is
know.
part of UPSU, but they're called
Right,
Coates. It's-
right.
They engage with UPSU as part of this, they're negotiating lead, per se.
Okay, beautiful. Further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Andy, thank you very much. 6-0, ordinance 26 passes. Resolution 23, resolution to proclaim April 2019 as Autism Awareness Month here in the city of Troy. Council President Vantello, do I have a motion?
Oh,
Motion, Councilmember Cummings, do you have a second? Second, Councilmember Gully, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 23 carries 6-0. Resolution 24, Resolution appointing Commissioner of Deeds for the City of Troy, Council President Mantello. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember December. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. I do have to add 2 people, and I believe the 2 people are Kelly, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, Miazga,
Yeah.
and Christine Minor. Do I have a motion to amend?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Cummings. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. All in favor of the motion to amend? Opposed? 6-0, motion to amend. On the amended resolution, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Gully. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Cummings. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Resolution 24 carries 6-0. Resolution 25, resolution authorizing. I'm going actually to make a motion right now to amend this, to amend the deputy mayor to the mayor. It's just a typo. It was a template. Do I have a motion to amend?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Cummings. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0 on the amendment. On the amended resolution, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with the Chasing Companies to design 5 riverfront sites. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion, Councilmember Parator. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. Discussion?
Council President.
Yes, Councilmember Cummings.
I'll just note that I was walking along the riverfront today and saw the nice new bike path,
Yes.
but there was a chasing truck parked in it. So, just looking forward to the continued development of that bike path so that it's more for bikes.
Yes. Yes, and I'm sure Chasen would agree, so yes. On the amended resolution, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution 25 carries 6-0. Resolution 26, resolution of the City Council approving home rule requests regarding amendment of New York State tax law and authorizing forwarding of same to the New York State Legislature. Councilmember Cummings at the request of the administration. Before we take a motion in a second, I have to recuse myself from this as a state legislative employee. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Cummings. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Parator. Discussion?
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember December.
I'm not sure who can speak on this, but I was looking to get clarification on a conversation of whether this would include Airbnbs in the city as
It
part
will
of
not.
this.
It will not. The mayor can verify, but it does not. Correct.
That's correct. Under the state law, hotels, the way they're defined, do not include the Airbnb, so it would not be included. I will note, however, that several counties, including Rensselaer County, have come to agreement with Airbnb and do collect a tax. I don't know under what authority they do that, but we'll work with
Let's find out.
Assemblyman McDonald's office to determine if that's an option for us as well.
In other words, the county's already collecting tax on the Airbnbs, is that?
Certain ones.
Yes.
Yeah, certain, okay. Thank you.
And, down the road, if the council does want to look at the issue of Airbnb, because, there's many residents and taxpayers who are using their homes as Airbnbs, it might be something to look at, some other communities have. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And recused, 1. So it's 5-0-1. Resolution 27, resolution appointing Deborah Garrett to the vacant city council position. Councilmember Cummings. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Parator. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember December. Discussion?
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember Cummings.
I'll save most of my discussion for the
So
regular
will
meeting.
I.
But just want to thank Deborah for being here and looking forward to working with you. And it's been a wonderful process getting to know you through this interview process. And look forward to working together.
I wish we were a part of that process, and I'll save my comments for the meeting. But certainly we're looking forward to having somebody sit in the District 2 seat. So I'll save my comments for the meeting. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? And abstain? I abstain.
Staying.
So it's
Council President.
4
How can I
Zero
vote with no
and
information?
2.
Council
Yes.
President,
Yes,
I would
Council
like to make a motion, at least for discussion, to untable one of the pieces of legislation we tabled at the last meeting. The ordinance 25, ordinance approving the settlement of tax certiorari on 19 to 25 2nd Street. I think we've all done a bit of our homework during that time. I did get a chance today to go tour the building. Mr. Pollock, who I think is here now, if anybody has any questions for him.
Well,
But I
first,
certainly got my questions answered today. I'll give a quick report for folks. Well, no, first I'll make a
Well,
motion
first,
on
you
table.
made a motion, so there's a motion on the floor to untable ordinance 25 for the folks who are watching online and the audience. Ordinance 25, ordinance approving settlement tax certiorari proceedings instituted by 19-25 2nd Street LLC on the assessment roll of the City of Troy. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, the ordinance was tabled at the last finance meeting to do a little more homework, to get a little more information. The assessment is being proposed to be cut in half. It's quite a huge certiorari proceeding, stating that we have been informed by Dan Vincelette, who handles much of our tax certioraries, who I hope is here tonight, and it sounds like the LLC is here to discuss. So we have a motion. Do we have a second to untable ordinance 25?
Second.
We have second, Councilmember Parator. On the discussion, I would first ask, is Mr. Vincelette here? Dan's not here? Okay. Jim, I don't know. I know that Dan answered a number of my questions, which just to go over them just for the council. So a couple of things. My questions were a couple of things. There are 3. Here we go. All right.
Chair.
Yes. Number one of the things was a comparative assessment of other similar buildings. Number 2, what are the exact grievances and assessments for 25 2nd Street and 1st Street? The proposed certiorari is not only to reduce the assessment, but also the LLC will relinquish his grievances. He'll forgive his grievances and not carry them through on 25 2nd Street and the 1st Street lot. And then number 3, the amount of assessment set on this property during the GAR reassessment. Number 4, total yearly property tax revenues for the city, school, and county. So Dan Vincelette did forward a very lengthy email to us. And I don't know, Jim, if you had anything to add to that.
As you all know, Dan Vincelette is our tax certiorari guru. The man knows the stuff, which is why he's hired by many municipalities to do this type of work. He explained to me that he had provided the city council with a very detailed memo as to his rationale for going through with this particular deal. He's discussed it with me. I am convinced he's right on spot on the law and on the facts, and that I would urge the city council to consider this particular tax certiorari settlement.
Yeah. And Sharon, I guess, also visited the property in February of 2019. As many of us know, the first floor is occupied by Pioneer, the second, third, and fourth floors are vacant. The owner intended to convert the upper floors to residential, but changed his mind due to the expense. He began advertising. There's also a 2-story building behind the bank that's attached to the building, which has 2 residential apartments, and the owner lives in one of those apartments and rents the other. Councilmember Cummings, did you want to add regarding your tour?
Yeah, I'll just say certainly we talked a bit about the process for listing and the process he's going through to try to make sure it's rented up, because as we discussed, as soon as it is reoccupied, we'll get a chance to reassess it and start to recoup some of these. But at the current situation it's in, certainly it's undergoing some renovation. I think he has an active permit out and has, the ceilings are down, the mechanicals are being upgraded. And I guess waiting for the right tenants. It's beautiful space, obviously right in the heart of downtown, with great views. And I'm sure when he finds the right tenant to be there, it's gonna go right back up in value. But it certainly, walking through it made sense that those places were not ready at that point.
I guess, Councilmember Kennedy.
Can you confirm, or Councilor, can you confirm if the building permits, whether they've been approved for the proposed renovations that will make this commercial space?
I myself am not aware of that, no.
Mr. Cummings?
Oh, hi.
You said great.
If you could introduce yourself,
Yeah.
and you could pick that mic right out, it's easier, you're real
I'm
tall.
Greg Pollock, I'm the owner of 1925 Second Street. I spoke with the building department. There are currently no outstanding permits in the building right now. So all the permits that were outstanding have already been closed down. There's no active building permits on that property. So those will be taken out in the future.
They'd be pulled when you're doing
Right,
fit up for a new.
right.
Gotcha.
Sure.
Councilmember Gully, first, Councilmember Kennedy, you're all square.
Do you have a timeline for that, or you're?
My timeline is dependent on when I get tenants leased up, so any future work would depend on whatever build out requirements a tenant would require. So I have plans to do some improvements and modernization of the common areas, but the actual tenant spaces, the work there will be dependent on whatever a tenant require out of that space.
Yeah, so you're changing the lobby and the entranceway to allow a common stairway that's open, or is, and that's?
I'm not doing any changes to the stairwell. I'm doing improvements to the lighting to make them more energy efficient. But there's no plan to work the staircase or any other means of egress on the property.
Oh, yeah, I guess my understanding from the past was that the egress and the entranceway made it difficult to have tenants on the second and third floor. So,
Depending on the occupancy, there may be an issue with the fire code that may require that, but as of today, there's no plans to incorporate a second stairwell unless fire code would require it, depending on occupancy in the future.
Council President.
Some good questions. Councilmember Gully, then
Thank you.
Councilmember Cummings. Councilmember
My
Gully.
question was on your timing, but let me ask you this. Have you started the process to advertise for
Yeah.
tenants?
Yeah.
And have you had any interest in any of the,
I've had a handful of tenants in the last about year and a half come through, kick tires, but nothing of any substance. I actually switched brokers at the end of last year due to the lack of
Yeah.
interest, and set of eyes and new kind of mindset would help.
and when you officially get that tenant, you're gonna build a suit?
Yes,
All right, thank you.
sure.
Councilmember Cummings.
Yeah, just to follow through on the permit situation and fit up. It looked to me like basically it's ready to, everything's torn out that should be torn out, and if there's other things that will be torn out, it's sort of based on what the tenant would need. I think any more work you would do now could be detrimental to the future tenant, or
Yeah, the second and third floors are extremely dated. Pioneer never did any renovations in several decades. The fourth floor, about 12 years ago, was renovated for the executive offices, but the second and third floor would require substantial work no matter what tenant came in, just given the condition of it at this time.
So Greg, do you have any time frame in terms of, only because you know, obviously our concern, you know, it's assessed, it's being proposed to have it knocked down in half. And I understand your challenges also, and we appreciate you investing in our city and in our downtown. And, you know, we're pleased with that. But, you know, I'd like to see like some type of plan moving forward, only because, you know, we were told at the last finance meeting that once it begins to get tenants, that assessment obviously will rise. And not that you want to see your assessment rise, but obviously you want tenants.
Right.
That's your goal. So do you have moving forward at least some type of financial / you know, any type of plan, like, okay, by the year 2020, I plan to have, you know, a tenant here, whatever, anything solid you could give to us?
Ideally, my plan would be to get the building leased fully this year. You know,
Okay.
I'm not holding off on leasing to keep my assessment low. I'm actively
Yeah.
marketing and working with the city economic office
Yeah.
to generate whatever interest I can to get the space leased.
Okay.
I mean, I could get a tenant coming tomorrow and lease
Right.
the entire building, or it could be 2 years, just depending on the market and on the demand for the space.
Chair?
Yep,
The second,
Councilmember Kennedy.
the second and third floor are considered two different or additional units. There is the one unit, all floors.
They are, so the building was currently occupied by Pioneer Bank, so there's never any demise of usable space because it was owner occupied. The second, third, and fourth floors are all separate units. You know, so the space is flexible for
How
whatever.
many units?
Right now, there are no set units, you know,
There's one unit.
Yeah, the
Okay.
space, the space today is as it was when Pioneer vacated about 3 years, about 2.5 years ago. So going forward, as a tenant moves in, the space would be demised and constructed to whatever there needs to be.
Okay. Did you want to add anything, Greg? Anything we're overlooking is,
I don't think so. I think last meeting, Dan did a good job of explaining it. I assume he brought in more information for you, and
yeah,
you know, I think with the national line today, you know, we walked through and he got a good handle of the condition of the space and the circumstances.
okay. Thank you, Greg.
Sure.
Further discussion, Councilmember Gully, did you have any?
No, good.
Further? Okay. I'm gonna take a slow roll. It is, we untabled it, okay? Councilmember Gully, this is to put it on the regular meeting.
Yes.
Councilmember Gully. Okay, Councilmember Parator?
Yes.
Councilmember Cummings?
Yes.
Councilmember December?
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
And I'm gonna vote no. I still just have reservations about this, so 4-1, it moves on to the regular meeting, and, you know, we can talk about that. All right, any
Council
further?
President?
Yes,
Would also like to untable resolution 23.
okay. Resolution 23 is an ordinance amending the special grants fund budget. Councilmember Cummings, at the request of the administration, this is to transfer monies to a special account for the zoning update. So this is $200,000, $100,000 from a state grant, $100,000 from the Troy Redevelopment Foundation, which goes to our general funds. So to untable, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember December. Discussion?
Council President,
Yes.
just to correct the
Councilmember.
record on that, I think this comes from the part of the TRF that.
That's what I said,
to
the
the
Troy
general-
Redevelopment.
Right, but you said it
But still,
goes to the general
it
fund.
is
From the
in,
special
it's
projects, half of
in,
that, but
it's
sure.
in the general fund on the budget sheet.
Okay.
On the discussion, Councilmember Gully, you got it in front of you? Okay,
Resolution,
it's ordinance number 23.
okay.
Okay, if you,
Okay,
I'll give you a minute to go on the agenda.
It's on last week, last.
It's on the finance from last week. That's the only thing, you don't have the backup on the
Right.
table. So it's okay, it's fine.
I'll send it over to you.
We're just so folks are aware, we're going on the backup on last week's finance meeting or 2 weeks ago to get the backup to ensure,
I was
okay?
away.
All right. So this is to untable ordinance 23, put it on the regular meeting, okay?
Okay.
All right. Further discussion? Did you
No.
have any questions?
No,
You
I
got
do
it? Okay.
I haven't.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. 23 goes on the regular agenda, 25 goes on the regular agenda. I think other than that, did you want to untable anything else? All right, just so folks are aware, for the regular meeting, please add ordinance 23, ordinance 25 from this evening's table to the regular meeting. I will take a motion to adjourn the finance meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Kennedy, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Parator, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, finance is adjourned. I would ask, Jim, if you don't mind, we'll do the public hearing, which was scheduled for 6:45. Just so folks are aware, this is a public hearing for CDBG funding. I would ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm calling the public hearing to order.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Clerk, if we could do a roll call for the public hearing, that'd be great.
Councilmember Gully.
Here.
Councilmember Parator.
Here.
Councilmember Cummings.
Here.
Councilmember December.
Present.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Here.
Council President Antillo.
Here.
6 present, 0 absent.
Council President, I
Yes.
move that the council resolve itself into a committee of the whole for the purpose of conducting a public hearing.
Thank you. And clerk, can you please read the notice of publication?
Notice is hereby given on this day, Monday, March 25th, 2019, that the City of Troy, New York hereby presents its proposed 2019 one-year action plan budget for the 2019-2020 Consolidated Planning Program year that begins July 1st, 2019. The proposed U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development funding includes $1.65 million community development block grant funding, $146,826 emergency solution grant funding, and $400,000 home investment partnerships program funding.
Thank you. Per our section 2.34, the special rules of the Troy City Council, I'll open up this public hearing to anyone that would like to speak regarding the CDBG funding. Please come up to the podium, state your name and address, and I'll open it up to the public. Would anyone like to speak regarding the public hearing for CDBG funding? Okay. We will close the public hearing. Oh, awesome. Hello. Hi, Terry.
Jerry?
How's everybody doing?
Very good.
All right. My name is Jerry Ford. I just wanted to know, how is that those funds how are they distributed to the public, and what's the the procedure if it's open for application? How does that really work? If we have a moment to kind of break that down for us.
Yeah, Steve, is Carolyn here? Oh, Carolyn, come on up. Carolyn, why don't you please come to the podium, talk about the CDBG program, how it works, and what this is exactly.
This is actually year 5 of the 5-year consolidated plan. So we're actually in our last funding year for the 5-year plan. The plan was established 5 years ago based on numerous meetings with neighborhood groups, the administration, council members, and we came up with a plan as far as the CDBG funding money goes, as to where that money will be allocated for a 5-year period. As far as emergency shelter grant, we have a consortium through CARES that decides on the entities that receive the funding and how much they'll receive. It's a board that votes, and they just give us the amounts that they're gonna break up. And our home funding is through Schenectady. We have a consortium with Schenectady and Colony, and we get a percentage of whatever home funding the federal government allocates to the consortium to do, we do Habitat for Humanity homes, and we also do first-time home buyer programs through that fund.
And Carolyn, the first part of it, the planning, administration, the neighborhood livability for code enforcement, South Troy target area, these were all developed when the plan went into place initially. So in answer to Jerry's question, this is the last year of this 5-year plan, but now next year, talk to us just so folks know what's coming down the pipe.
Well, we're probably gonna start in August, late August of this year, to start the process all over again and start going out to every neighborhood and meeting with all the neighborhood groups, getting their input, meeting with the administration, meeting with the city council, and then we'll come up with another 5-year plan based on those meetings.
Okay, and will folks, like, how does it work? Yes, there's public meetings, but in answer to, Jerry's question, how can, some of these funds be targeted for North Central? But where do we look in terms of the targets? Like, how is that established?
But we have to look in areas that are low income qualified. So a lot of people don't understand that we can't hit every area in the city, though our map is turning very green and we're losing a lot of gray, unfortunately.
That's not a good thing.
So we are actually able to work in more areas within the city of Troy. And what we do then is we actually go and we look for the area that actually needs the most work done. And the areas where there's problems in the neighborhoods, and it has been proven that by what we do has improved these areas, and the problems actually have gotten a lot better in these areas and are less. So we use a method of different strategies on how we determine.
And how much, do we know now how much we're going to have or not yet? Okay,
The federal budget hasn't been passed yet, so
okay,
these are still tentative numbers.
okay.
Within the 10%.
But this 5th year is set in stone. No, that's not even.
The budget has been passed yet.
So if it was cut, who decides what programs are cut? And would South Troy see some of the work that's targeted for there? Would we have to cut back or no?
A percentage, yes.
Really? When will we find, well, it's all based on the federal budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure they'll get that done
Yeah.
quickly.
And it's usually within a 10%, so it hasn't been much at all.
Okay.
Actually, last year, we got lucky and everything went up.
Okay.
So we actually had to come back because the money went up over 10%, so we had to come back and redo the public hearing.
And Carolyn, does this, is there any synergy between this program and the opportunity zones? The new opportunity zone program? No, totally separate, okay.
Same
All right.
target areas.
All right, yeah, that's what it is. Yep,
Sure.
council member.
Yeah, when you say areas, is it more specifically delineated by the census tracts?
Yes.
Very good.
Council
Very
President,
good. Yes, council
just to
member.
also follow up on the question from Mr. Ford. How particularly can people apply for the home and first-time home programs?
It does.
There is no application for the home. And for a first-time home buyer program, they would have to go through the TRIP program.
Yep.
Which we pay them to host the program for us.
Great.
Now, do they have workshops
Yes.
from this? Very good,
It's
so,
actually a 6-month process, so
okay,
if people are interested, they've got to be ready to sit down for 6 months and go through this program before they can apply.
okay. So I think an answer, stay tuned, and there hopefully will be opportunities, down the road, but these projects are already sculpted out. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome, all right.
Council President?
Further, yes.
Can you just
Councilmember.
give some examples about what the funds have been? I know you spoke broadly about them, but specifically these were done in different zones of the city. In South Troy, we've seen it up in Lansingburg. What does it look like in particulars? Are we talking about only the sidewalk repairs? I know you mentioned the home funding, but can you talk a little bit more about that part?
Home funding is our, total money, so that is very strict. We can't use that other than participating with like Habitat for Humanity and for the first time home buyer programs or rehabilitation of properties with a CHODO. You have to be a CHODO, and right now.
And for folks,
Yeah.
just for folks who don't know what CHODO.
You have to be a licensed, home program through a federal agency to be able to be considered as a CHODO.
Okay.
And Habitat right now is the only one that we have in Troy that we partner with. Troy Housing used to be, but then they dropped theirs.
Okay. Oh, and actually I'm seeing it's, new construction projects or perform rehab on city-owned property, that will be sold to low and moderate income persons. And I take it the land bank's involved or not at this point?
They're involved as far as with Habitat, buying the properties from them and then us funding the projects
Okay.
for the rehabilitation or the construction of the properties.
All right. And in South Troy, the paving is scheduled, streetscaping, what else?
In South Troy, where we're looking to do the sidewalks, curbs, street lighting, the brand new park at Second and Jackson. And we'll be doing paving, street trees, adding them, not taking any trees down.
Okay. Very good.
So
So
the bid is actually out right now, and we're expecting that back at the end of this month. So
the bid,
The bid.
Yep,
for the
okay.
project. So hopefully the numbers come in decent. so-
decent. Yeah, the more we can do.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And we're scheduled to vote,
May.
May.
Yep.
Very good. 30-day window, correct? And so if anyone has comments,
Yeah,
they can
30
send them to you?
Yep.
Very good. Okay. Further questions? All right. Thank you very much, Carolyn. If all is okay, I see Hillary here from TRIP, who is absolutely amazing, and congratulations on your New York State budget win. TRIP was very successful, folks, in getting state funding for, thank you for the foreclosures. Thank you. So congratulations. It's a huge win.
To prevent foreclosures.
Correct, to prevent. Somebody had their hand raised. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Frank Maven, North Central Community, of course. Just a little, I heard her say that the August reprocess, and just, help me out here. I need to clearly understand exactly what's going on. So she said the August reprocessing thing, and it will be happening in the neighborhoods. They have the funding, I'm saying neighborhoods where? It seemed that there was a lot of discussion just now about South Troy and Lansingburg. Seemed like you skipped over the middleman there, which would be North Central. I didn't hear
No.
North Central.
Right.
I'm just, okay, and then you can answer all of it. So if you skipped over or skipped through, so we're very concerned about District 2. I just hear South Troy and Lansingburg. When I hear that, I don't hear District 2. I get a little concerned with that. That's North Central. So I just want to know, I'm not saying you're skipping over us. I'm just saying, what's happening with that. And then she said, well, we come up with these determinations, we make these decisions, we who? Like, who is we?
Right.
Who are the people?
You're part of it.
Right.
You're part of it. Two things. This is a 5-year plan, Frank, that already started 5 years ago. This is the 5th year of that 5-year plan, so it's already targeted to South Troy. What Carolyn's talking about, and Carolyn, please stand, because obviously you oversee this program. Where did Carolyn go?
She just went out to get some cars. I know
Oh,
she
good.
is. I'll never forget.
What Carolyn's talking about is moving forward for the next plan. They'll involve all the neighborhood groups. You'll be a part of that. So stay tuned. And there's no targeted area chosen yet, nothing, but they look at the most neediest areas. I would think North Central would be on the docket for that.
Okay.
Okay.
And just one more thing, just to be clear, And first of all, please excuse my head there, you don't wanna see what's on here, but.
I like the hat. I like the hat.
CDBG stands.
Community Development Block Grant Funding. It's federal funding that's run through the state. and
Community
it's-
Development Block Grant Funding.
You got it. All right, thank you. And Frank, we'll get you Carolyn's card. Okay? Beautiful. All right. Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing and we'll take a 2 to 3 minute break, potty break or whatever you need to do, and we'll come back at 7:20 and we'll start our regular meeting. Thank you very much.
Good, Colleen, how are you?